He's
unstable.
Unstable.
He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
But
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Kamala Harris did an interview with Fox News. Now, I'm going to go ahead and spare y'all watching every inch of this interview. I'd much rather we look at some of the responses and reactions from said interview. But I'm going to start off with this clip. Kamala went completely unhinged, lying about Donald Trump locking up political opponents. Newsflash, Kamala, according to Charlie Kirk, it was Biden and the Harris DOJ that tried to throw President Trump in federal prison for 700 years.
Talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the president of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
Kamala Harris, look, man, you doing so much shape shifting. It's actually pissing me off. Like, honestly, man, you sitting here, you know, every room you get into is this. Next room you get into is that. You're saying that what Donald Trump is doing is exactly what the DOJ is doing to Donald Trump. I don't get that. Donald Trump comes out, no tax on tips. She goes, no tax on tips, yeah. You know what I'm saying? He come out and say, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. She come out later, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. Man, she got destroyed in the interview. You know what I mean? This is probably my favorite though.
Frankly, exhausted of Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever
become,
of power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me.
So we can clearly see that she's in her phase of life that she's always been in, which is denial. Like, I like the fact that this host actually asked her the tough question, you know, not the softball question. He's like, look, man, you got a very high percentage of people saying that what you saying ain't what you ain't what, you know what I mean? And she over there like, what do you mean? You know, Donald Trump. He's like, man, look, I'm holding you accountable. I love when she got to get held accountable. Y'all see that over there in them tight spaces like that? No teleprompter. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking at the comments. It's saying like, what the F is she talking about? She's such a, you know, knucklehead. Somebody also, here's a anti-Trump. Trump has been species to make people afraid. He don't give a about America is what somebody else said. Somebody else said she's as a box of rocks. Of course, we got some Fox News clown emojis. People think America is on the wrong path, and all she says is Trump. Creepy. I agree with that comment right there. Now, my guy Link Lauren, he watched the interview, and I want you guys to see his response to it, his reaction to it. He definitely says it's total calamity.
Kamala Harris just sat down for an interview on Fox News, and it was an utter calamity. I took copious notes, and let's just say joy has left the building. What became abundantly clear in this interview is that Kamala Harris, because she's never been pressed before, the second you press her on anything, she crumbles. She cracks and crumbles like a fortune cookie that's been run over by an 18-wheeler. Shattered. Right from the beginning, she was asked about immigration, which is her least favorite subject because she's overseen the worst immigration crisis in American history. She immediately tries to blame Donald Trump for the crisis at the border, but Brett Baier, he says, no, you guys rolled back all of those executive measures like Remain in Mexico that were keeping the crisis under control. Kamala continues to talk about this amnesty bill she was pushing her first day in office. That was a bill that would have given citizenship to 11 million migrants. In 2021, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they had the House, the Senate, and the White House. She is lying when she says Donald Trump is responsible for the crisis at the border. Another key moment is that for the first time ever, Kamala Harris was asked, when did you know Joe Biden was in cognitive decline? You would think she has an answer rehearsed for this, but she says, well, Biden's not on the ballot. Trump's on the ballot. Biden's not on the ballot. Yes, sweetheart, we know that. That's why you're sitting here. Kamala, maybe you stopped at Chili's on the way to the interview for a couple of margaritas, but we understand Joe Biden is no longer on the ballot because you, Nancy Pelosi, and other Democrats shanked him and threw him out like the trash. Throughout the interview, when Kamala Harris does not have answers for Brett Baier's question, she says, well, Donald Trump, he's unstable. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Well, guess what? Donald Trump is beating you in many of these polls. She really got hit with the reverse Uno card, whatcha? Because if Donald Trump is so terrible, why are you not beating him by a landslide? She was also asked in the interview about turning the page. We're going to turn a new page. This is a new way forward. And Brett was like, haven't you been around for the last 4 years? What are we turning the page from? She really tried to say, we're turning the page from Donald Trump. Kamala, you have... Kamala was also asked in the interview about comments she made back in 2019 about paying for transgender people to have surgeries in prison. Every time she was asked about her record, she would say, I'm going to follow the law. I will follow the law. Why don't you have an answer for why you have flip-flopped on so many policies in such a short time span? Now, the most egregious part of this interview is actually what happened off camera, and we found out afterward that Kamala Harris, she showed up late, they tried to whittle it down to 20 minutes, and then she had 4 staffers waving their arms frantically, trying to shut it down. Now, like I always say, I'm not owned by the RNC or the DNC. The only thing I'm beholden to is the truth. And the truth is, if Kamala Harris cannot handle a tough interview with substantive questions, how is she going to take on Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and other world leaders? Kamala Harris talks about her record as a DA, as an attorney general, and she says she's this great attorney. I would rather have Elle Woods from Legally Blonde represent me in court than Kamala Harris. The way Kamala Harris was so unprepared for this interview speaks to my thesis that Kamala does not like to do hard work. The only way to get her to work is to leave a trail of margaritas into the Oval Office like Hansel and Gretel. What really cracks me up is that Kamala Harris talks about all these things she wants to pass when she gets into office. Well, number 1, why haven't you done it the last 4 years? Number 2, I don't even think Kamala could pass a breathalyzer test. Now, we still have many questions Kamala Harris has not answered for. What about the allegations against her husband, Doug Emhoff? From the things I've read and the allegations against her husband, I want to know, does Kamala Harris have to wear a hockey mask on date night? These are pretty damning allegations against Doug Emhoff. Something else no one has asked Kamala Harris about is that a few weeks ago, she was talking about doing price capping on groceries, eggs, milk, you name it. I want to know what happened to that. Is that still a policy she's pushing for? Another moment that really stuck out to me from the interview is that Kamala Harris was talking about Donald Trump and she said, you are responsible for your administration. Well, Kamala Harris, you just gave them the best attack ad they could have ever asked for. Following Kamala Harris's logic, if they're responsible for their administration, then you are responsible for yours. In conclusion, I imagine whoever scheduled this interview is probably being fired, and Kamala, they're definitely going to have to restock the mini fridge in her hotel room tonight. All right, thanks for liking and following. Drop a comment. Tell me how you feel about Kamala Harris, Donald Trump. We are 19 days out from the election. I will see you on the next one. Bye.
I gotta say, man, I appreciate his take, man. For sure, he was able to relay that and, express his reaction the same way that we all felt when we was watching the interview. frustrated. Like, oh my gosh, she wasn't even answering anything. She went full Karen. Never go full Karen, by the way. Let's read a few comments from this post, from this reaction. It said, I haven't even watched this yet, but Link, I'm so excited to get your take. I'm getting my popcorn for real. It would be fun. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, he definitely did a fantastic job because she really got TDS, okay? And she's trying to take all of her faults and everything now and convince America that all of it is at the responsibility of Donald Trump. We're not going for that, man. It's nothing new, though. You know, we didn't get to know her. Missed opportunity for her, as always. But what else we got going on? I'm trying to see if we got any more reactions hitting the internet before I leave. Oh, JD Vance. My guy, JD Vance. I don't know how I was finna get off of this video without showing y'all this. He reacted to it. You gotta see this.
You know, guys, the thing that I found just so bizarre about Kamala Harris's entire interview, 25 minutes of a person who couldn't answer a direct question. How many illegal immigrants have come in? She didn't answer that question. What are we turning the page on? She goes and talks about Donald Trump, who, of course, hasn't been in office for the past 3.5 years. Kamala Harris has been. What I saw as a person who not just didn't have the skill to navigate a tough interview, but doesn't know how to explain her record because her record is not possible to explain away to the American people. And so she dipped and dodged questions for 25 minutes. That's not leadership. And that's not contrition. And I think the American people would like to see from their vice president an acknowledgement that she screwed up. It's why we have so many of these problems. Real leadership would be promising a new course and acknowledging while the old course didn't work.
The best part for me personally was when she said, you know, you and I both know what I'm talking about. And he was like, I actually don't. What are you talking about? I was like, finally, The Rock. No, I'm playing. But yeah, man, shout out to JD Vance for his take on that. She's turning a page in the rules for radicals handbook. I'm gonna let y'all know that because she ain't definitely turning no pages in America right now at all. She refused to answer any questions or take responsibility for the current administration, which she's currently in. I'm gonna tell you guys what want her as, you know, your pick. I'm so confused. I'm as confused as she is confused, really. You know, she couldn't even answer the New Way Forward question. And that's their campaign slogan, y'all. Come on, bro. Quit playing with me. Trump 2024.